What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. This is episode 157, and today we're going to be covering NXT TakeOver 31. And I'm delighted to introduce a guest that I've tried to have on the Wrestling with Johners podcast for a little while now. We've tried a couple of times, but finally I've got the man on the Wrestling with Johners podcast, none other than Sonny G, interviewer and commentator for Powered Forward TV. So, Sonny, great to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you very much. It's it's great to finally be here. I know, like you said, we've been, trying to do this for a little while now, but we get to do it now, and I'm really, happy that you wanted to have me on here.
Yeah, and I would say that it's a pretty good event to have you on to discuss today, Sonny, because
For sure.
We're going to be talking about NXT TakeOver 31. There's lots of kind of talking points coming out of the show, lots of talking points that we'll get into, no doubt, during the discussion, and some really, really good matches, including a fantastic main event, and I can't wait to discuss that with you. But let's talk for a couple of minutes about you, because, as I've said before, earlier, been dying to get you on the podcast. We finally got you on the Wrestling with Johners podcast. I mentioned at the top of the podcast that you've done plenty of interviews in your time, as well as podcast yourself. And I know you better as a commentator for various promotions around the UK that's been highlighted on Turnbuckle TV and now Powered Forward TV. Most recently, Sonny, with Full Force Wrestling in their 5-year anniversary show, which hit our screens on Powered Forward TV this past Friday. So go out and check that out. But congratulations on all of your successes, my friends. But commentating, when did you first kind of realise that you were going to be a commentator? When did you kind of get bitten by the commentating bug, and when did you start?
To be honest, I mean, I've always been just a podcaster. I say just a podcaster. I've always been a podcaster, and when Rich gave me the opportunity to be part of Turnbuckle TV, I was thinking, oh, this is great. I get to be a part of a business that I've wanted to be a part of for, I'm 36 this year, so I've been watching wrestling for a long time. So it's something that, I've dreamed of being a part of for such a long time. And then, just to be given that opportunity, to be given the chance to do it was just unbelievable. And then, I was doing the interviews and stuff, and I was being part of the Wrestling in Hinckley promotion, and I just thought, maybe I could do commentary here. Maybe let me see if they'll give me a chance. That's all I wanted. All I wanted was a chance. So I asked, I think Rich asked Tom, or I asked Tom, I can't remember. And then Tom was like, okay, well, here's the show that you just did all the interviews for. Do it and we'll see what happens. So it was the Fear of Falling tournament, 2019 that I did. And that was the first show that I did ever. And I basically just took everything that I knew from watching wrestling and, listening to commentators, and just went from there. So I did it in post. So I did it at home, and I had no idea whether it was any good, or if people were going to like it, or I was going to get slaughtered. But I did it, and people seemed to enjoy it, and it's picked up from there, really.
Yeah, well, I think you've easily and already established yourself as one of the go-to commentators on the work, tremendous work you've done on Turnbuckle TV and Powered Forward. And I've seen all the shows you've done for DNA Wrestling, and of course the Full Force Wrestling. And what other groups do you? I mean, you obviously said Wrestling in Hinckley. What other groups do you commentate for, Sonny?
I've done some matches I've done some shows for IWE as well, which is great. They're a show based sort of down south from where I am.
Frankie T. We love Frankie on this show.
Yeah. Love the urban goth. Frankie's a great guy as well. His jokes are terrible. Don't tell him that I said that, but his jokes are terrible. So I do IWE, and earlier on this year I started doing New Breed as well.
Right.
But I did the first show this year, and then the pandemic happened, and I've not had a chance to do it since. So I've been doing a few older bits for New Breed, some old matches, but they've had some current NXT UK stars. So it's been really cool to do that. But it's crazy really to be a part of these promotions. I've done DKW as well. I'm not sure if I'm still doing DKW, to be honest. I need to slide back into Lucas's DMs and have a chat with him. But yeah, you know what? To even be considered and to even be, given them opportunities to do it is just, to me, is mind blowing, because you always have that feeling of, do I actually belong doing this? I still consider myself very new, especially in comparison to a lot of the other guys that have been on the independent scene for a long time. So I still consider myself fairly new. I don't turn up to shows in a suit or anything like that. I think, trying to modernize the way that it works.
Of course.
I just roll up in a pair of skinny jeans and a t-shirt or a hoodie or something, and try and shake it up a little bit,
Yeah, well, you definitely do a fantastic job. And of course, speaking of Turnbuckle TV and Powered 4 TV, but I've got a lot to thank Rich for and John Scott for, and all the opportunities they've given me as well. So we're both very grateful for the opportunities that's been thrown our way, and we're making the most of it, you could say. But let's talk a bit about your wrestling fandom then, before we talk about NXT TakeOver 31. Yeah. So when did you first become a wrestling fan? Was it from a young age? Was it family members or friends that got you into it? And who were some of the characters that jumped out at you during that time that really pulled you in?
Well, I first started watching wrestling, when Sky first came into this country. So we're probably looking at the back end of the 80s, the very early 90s.
Right.
My first
you was a young Sonny G back then.
Oh yeah, I was a real young Sonny G. I had the blue Hasbro WWF ring,
right,
and with the super solid figures that did spring moves and stuff. I started watching. My first real memory of wrestling is around the time WrestleMania 6 was going to happen, and it was going to be Hogan and Warrior. I was a firm Hogan guy, and I was fuming when Warrior won. I'm still a little bit bitter about it now, to be honest. Even to this day, I like that match. I love it so much still.
It's a great match, yeah.
But I'm still angry that the Ultimate Warrior came away with the win. That was not. Looking back at it now, obviously, you look at wrestling a lot different. But I was a Hogan guy, so. Yeah, no, I don't want to see Ultimate Warrior pick up that win.
It was the passing of the torch, but it didn't quite live out to their expectations, I don't think. But
in hindsight, no, I don't think it did.
Classic times. And how would you say your wrestling fandom or tastes have changed over the years, and to what you like to watch on a weekly basis nowadays, and Sonny?
I think as you do get older and stuff like that, you do become. You do find yourself searching for something different. And that for me, obviously I watched WWE all the way through the Attitude Era and stuff like that. But, around that same time, ECW really started to catch my eye, and the style of wrestling that was happening in ECW was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Not so much the hardcore stuff, but more the, some of the lucha libre elements they were adding in there, and just some of the matches you were seeing, like the triple threat matches between Super Crazy and Tajiri and, and Guido and, Nova and them kind of guys they were showing me a style that I wasn't used to seeing on WWE. I was used to seeing Val Venus versus Jeff Jarrett for the European Championship or something, but then I started watching ECW, and I really started looking for that more technical, more exciting style of wrestling. And now, I watch a lot of NXT. NXT is my go-to WWE. I do watch Raw and SmackDown. I'm a WWE guy. I can't help it. As terrible as it is sometimes, I just can't help myself. I'm a WWE lifer, it will always just be like that. But yeah, I watch NXT. I watch NXT UK. I'm a big fan of NXT UK. I've been to a lot of the tapings for the live shows and for the TV show, and so I hold NXT UK very close to me, and I do watch AEW. I like it. Yeah. It's I can understand if you've been a lifelong WWE guy why it would be difficult for you to get into AEW. But I think AEW is a great product, and they're still very much in their infancy.
Sure.
So to compare them to WWE is too easy for the casual wrestling fan. But I think when you look at it from if you look at it realistically, AEW will grow to be massive, and I think it will outlive WCW by some distance, just like Impact has.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I like AEW a lot. But you know, NXT UK, AEW, they're giving me the style of wrestling that I want.
Indeed. And I have to kind of echo your sentiments regarding ECW because I think we've been wrestling fans for a similar length of time, but when ECW first came around, and I was watching them for when they were first Eastern Championship Wrestling, and then they evolved into Extreme Championship Wrestling, and it just blew my mind with the different styles of wrestling and the storylines and the characters and the music and the fans that were so much part of that product. And I was thinking about it the other day, but ECW is very much responsible for not only the Attitude Era, but kind of what we have today in terms of the style of wrestling and the style of wrestler that we have, whether it be more hardcore based or more technical based. I think that a lot of it all stems back to ECW, that introduced a lot of different styles of wrestling to the American and to the worldwide audience in one neat package. So yeah, a massive fan of ECW this way. But let's talk about NXT TakeOver 31 then, Sonny. Yes. So going into it, what was your expectations, and were there any matches that were really kind of calling out to you that you were looking forward to?
I mean, I knew the main event was going to be something real special, you know. I like Kyle O'Reilly anyway. You know, I liked when he was in ROH, and I remember seeing the match at Wrestle Kingdom against Adam Cole for the championship. And, you know, obviously, to people who just watch WWE or NXT, they'll just know Kyle O'Reilly from being in a tag team. But, you know, I knew that, you know, he was a phenomenal singles wrestler, and if you let Finn Balor loose and let him do, you know, what he wants, and let them just wrestle, let them be themselves, you know, let them loose. You know, I knew that it was going to be a real special match, and you know, obviously, you know, we'll talk about it in a bit, but it absolutely delivered. But the card, really, top to bottom, was really, really great.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the show then, because the show opens with the brand new Capitol Wrestling Center on full display. I think they've just done out the Performance Center, from what I understand, that it's kind of a mixture of the Thunderdome with all the screens and the fan interaction from home, but they also had live people in attendance. I think they had families and friends in attendance in small groups kind of scattered around. I think there's about 100 in total, so that made a refreshing change to see that back in this era. I don't know whether it will last, but it certainly has that kind of impact on an NXT show. Definitely made a big difference for me. But your first glimpse of the Capitol Wrestling Center, did you appreciate what they were trying to do and the vibe they were trying to give off?
Yeah, definitely. I think NXT's been missing something really. You know, since the pandemic started. Full Sail is quite a big space to occupy. You know, it's a university campus, and it's just without anybody in it, it's empty. You know, and NXT needs that sort of closeness. So, like, obviously, with NXT, normally the crowd are like super close, and you know, you've got that very sort of small feel but energetic feel, and NXT was really missing that. I know you had like the extra talent smacking the boards and stuff, but it was still missing something. And I think the mini Thunderdome that they've got going on now, I think that's great. You know, I know they had only about 30 actual fans in there,
right?
But the rest of it was friends and family and talent as well. There was a few talent in there, and I think as time goes on over the coming weeks, I think we'll see more fans actual fans be a part of it. I saw earlier on today that you know, invitations are being sent out to people along with the guidelines of what they can and can't do there and stuff. So it's, for me, already it had an impact. You know, I love the underground feel of it to a degree. I know you've got the boards with the fans on it, but you know, like with the mesh fencing along the like the glass boards, you know, that it looks awesome. It just gives it that different feel to the Thunderdome. It's not as polished.
Totally agree. And to kick things off, we had Damien Priest putting his NXT North American Championship on the line against Johnny Gargano. So there was obviously a big size difference between these two extraordinary talents. You had Johnny having to use his pace and intelligence to get an advantage over Priest in the early stages, with Gargano focusing heavily on Priest's left leg. Priest attempted a razor's edge first off on Gargano, only for Gargano to turn it into like a sunset bomb for a close near fall to kind of kick things off. There was an exchange of strikes before the match goes to the outside, allowing Priest to finally hit his razor's edge on the edge of the ring apron, leading to a 2 count. There's even a very impressive somersault senton from Damien Priest, who's a big guy. Was he about 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah, he's a big dude, yeah.
He's a big old dude. And it could only serve to kind of take out some security on the outside. But even
that came from nowhere, though, right?
It really did. It was very Ricochet-esque. But even after Gargano slapped on the Gargano escape and 2 super kicks, it was Damien Priest who prevented the one final beats from Gargano, turning it into the reckoning for the pinfall victory in this really hot opener, and Damien Priest successfully manages to retain his North American Championship. The match went about 18.5 minutes, Sonny. A really hot opener. I didn't think it was going to be this good, but the chemistry between these two was very good as far as I was concerned. What were your thoughts and feelings about this one?
Damien Priest, for me, is going to be such a huge star. Not only in NXT, but I think he's got that WWE look about him. You know, he's a big dude. He's super charismatic. His voice is ridiculously deep somehow. I've no idea. But I knew that, you know, the two of them are both great workers. Obviously, Johnny Gargano, in my opinion, one of the best in the world. And I knew it was too soon for Damien Priest to drop the belt. To be honest, what I see from here is Gargano actually going to the main roster now.
Right.
I don't understand what else he can do in NXT. That's just how I feel about it. But I knew going into this that it was going to be competitive. It was going to be fast paced. It was going to be very close between the two. Obviously with NXT, they love the near falls, and there was plenty on display here. And it was just such a great opener. And I love that they make the North American Championship feel really important by having these hotly contested matches, you know. And Damien Priest, he's going to be the champion, I think, for a long time. I think they hold a lot of stock in him. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, it exceeded the already high expectations that I had for it. But, you know, there was probably no better match to open TakeOver 31 with than that.
Definitely. And a couple of things that caught my eye about this match also was that Johnny Gargano got in a lot of offense. And you might say, well, you know, he's a Grand Slam champion of NXT. Of course, he's going to get in a lot of offense. But like I said, at the very top of this match, there's a big size discrepancy between these two. Damien Priest is very dominant and a big guy, lots of power moves there as well as being very agile. But the other thing I liked is that Damien Priest did show a fair bit of vulnerability, and he did sell for Johnny Gargano an awful lot. And there were points in the match where Johnny Gargano looked like he had the upper hand and could have potentially stolen the title. But I think that the right person won the match at the end of the day.
I agree.
Johnny Gargano did everything he could to put Damien Priest over. Not that Damien Priest needed it, but a fantastic match. And this was a great way to kick things off. And like I say, went about 18.5 minutes, so they gave him plenty of time and a really, really hot opener. But let's talk about our next match then. So this was quite an interesting match for a couple of reasons. Kushida versus the Velveteen Dream. Now, this feud, this match has been brewing for a number of weeks on NXT TV, Sonny. But one thing that really stood out for me was that this was Kushida's first ever NXT TakeOver match, and he's been with the company well over a year and a half. Now he's had his injuries, he's had his kind of issues as to why he's not been able to have this prolonged feud or a takeover feud or a takeover match. But this match was completely different to what I was expecting, and Kushida had a lot of the offense here. the match finally got started after Kushida. He kind of attacked the Velveteen Dream during Dream's entrance, so that was quite different. Kushida was vicious in his stomps and general offense towards the Velveteen Dream, including a ramming Dream's left shoulder into the ring post twice, and then 2 separate arm bars. Dream did make a brief comeback, but it was all Kushida in this one. And after a top rope hoverboard lock, Kushida was able to apply the hoverboard lock for a second time and got the impressive win via a tap-out victory. So this was a dominant victory for Kushida. They've obviously got big plans for Kushida. Kushida continued to beat down Velveteen Dream even after the end of this match. The match went about 13 minutes, and it was pretty much 13 minutes of a beatdown by Kushida, in my opinion. But give us your thoughts on this one. It was a very dominant match by Kushida, and it all kind of started before the bell rang.
Yeah, with this, I mean, the way Velveteen Dream has been used since he come back from his extended period of time away, it's been really strange, and I'm finding it very hard to get into the character of Velveteen Dream the same way that I did before when he was around. And with Kushida, like you, I was so shocked to find out that was his first takeover, like his first takeover match. It's like, what? The dude's been there so long. Like, how is this the first time? But he looked great. Obviously, with Kushida, I loved the aggression. The aggression is like, I love that style, that strong style. He just throwing everything. I think we've seen a very soft side of Kushida since he came to WWE.
I was going to say it's much needed aggression, because we have seen quite a soft side of Kushida that we know from having seen so many matches of his over in Japan that he's kind of brutal in his offense, and I think this is the first time we've seen that brutality. And I think it's kind of moved him up a couple of notches in many people's opinion of him and estimations of him, to the point where we can take him seriously as an NXT threat going forward.
Definitely. And what I want to see from Kushida now is I want to see him push on, keep with that aggressive style. I know that they're sort of saying that they're turning him heel, because obviously what he did at the end was break the arm of Velveteen Dream. And that's, the supposed start of a heel turn for him. And I think that's great, because, and I've been saying this a lot, while there's no fans there, I know there was fans there last night, but while there isn't, while we're not in a normal environment, you can test the waters and do different things, without, getting that bite back. You can really build a heel character, because, we know full well, if fans were present on, at SmackDown tapings at the minute, Roman Reigns will be getting cheered because he's now a heel. So you don't really get the chance to build that heel character properly, But with Kushida now turning heel, and you can really build that strong, vicious heel side of him, and let it really pick up some serious momentum. Maybe go for the North American Championship, or maybe even down the line challenge Finn Balor for the NXT Championship, and just really build himself to be the top quality superstar that he really can be.
Yeah, and I honestly thought when they had that number one contenders gauntlet match the other week, Sonny, that Kushida was going to come out on top there, and we was going to see a Kushida Finn Balor main event last night. Now we didn't, and we'll talk about the actual main event that we did have, which was would have been every bit as good as the Kushida match. But I thought that was the direction they were going. But maybe somewhere down the line, and I think with that added aggression, Kushida needs to be taken seriously, and he's going to be on many people's lips when it comes to talking about championship contenders, one way, shape or form. But Sonny, you mentioned at the top of the podcast about your wrestling fandom, starting from the late 80s all the way through to now. You must have seen a few WCW Halloween Havocs in your time. But as we saw last night, WWE are bringing it back under the NXT banner, and it's going to take place on the 28th of October, which I think is either a Saturday or a Sunday, and it's going to be their next NXT pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc. So exciting times, and it's a much-loved concept. I was, out of all of the WCW pay-per-views, the Halloween Havoc was the one that I looked forward to the most every single year. So many classic pay-per-views under the WCW Halloween Havoc banner. But are you looking forward to this one?
I am. I think it's actually an episode of NXT. I don't think it's a weekend because
okay.
The 31st of October is a Saturday.
Right.
And
so it's going to be going up against Dynamite then.
Yeah, I knew this because I was due to get married on Halloween this year, but because of COVID, it was cancelled. So yeah, this is going to be a midweek regular episode of NXT. So it's going to be going up against Dynamite, like you said. I don't think it's the Dynamite 1 year anniversary show. I think that might be the week before.
Right. Yeah, I think it might be sooner. Yeah, so I know their 1 year anniversary comes around fairly soon, but it's going to be close. Yeah.
Because obviously there's Shotzi Blackheart, who I love. I think she's brilliant. Huge future in WWE. Whether it be on NXT or the main roster, she's hosting Halloween Havoc. I hope they have the big pumpkin. That's the one thing I loved about WCW pay-per-views was in the 90s where they had the awesome sets for their pay-per-views.
Yeah, and the big skeleton coming down and the big.
I want all of that.
Loved all of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I saw on the reaction on Twitter last night was electric for Halloween Havoc being brought back. I just hope WWE do us proud. I hope they do it justice.
Yeah. Now, one Halloween Havoc match in particular was Jake Roberts and Sting with the spin the wheel, make the deal. I'm not sure whether I want them to bring that back or not, but it didn't work very well for WCW back in the day. So hopefully that's something they don't bring back for nostalgia value. I hope.
There's a few things that can be left in that never to be touched again WCW box.
Indeed.
Like Buff Bagwell's mum on a pole and that sort of stuff. That can be left with WCW.
Yeah. But let's talk about our next match. So it's the third of 5 matches. Santos Escobar versus Isaiah Swerve Scott for the Cruiserweight Championship. And Sonny, so as we mentioned in the last match, that takeover, this takeover was not only the debut for Kushida, but also the debut takeover for these two individuals, Isaiah Swerve Scott and Escobar, of course. And out of all the matches, going into this show, this was one of the matches I was particularly looking forward to. These two very, very talented individuals, and both very, very familiar with each other and very familiar with like the lucha style of pro wrestling as well, Sonny. But I'm just going to go through some of the highlights of the match. It was Swerve Scott in the early stages. In this match, it was all Swerve Scott in the early stages of this match, with Santos Escobar delivering a dive to the outside and a top rope Frankensteiner to even things up. There was a Rolling Thunder flatliner and a DDT from the middle turnbuckle from Scott for a 2 count. But then we had Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza. They come out to interfere, but they're fought to the back by Ashante Adonis. Escobar showed some frustration after Scott kicked out of his Phantom Driver finisher. Swerve Scott came within a whisker of winning the match following a house call and a 450 splash, but it was Santos Escobar that ended up pulling out the victory after Scott hit his head on the turnbuckle bar on the outside of the ring before Escobar connected with a double underhook backbreaker for the win. I've got to be honest, the longer this match went, the more invested I got into the action. However, I thought the ending was a little weak, and the ending did not do any favours for Swerve Scott, in my opinion. But overall, a good match. I'd love to know your thoughts on this one, Sonny.
Man, I loved this match. I knew it was going to be great. I'm with you here. I didn't like the end. I don't think that finish is the finish that Escobar should use going forward, because it just didn't look good, especially after everything they'd hit each other with during the course of the match. It just felt like that was it just fell flat. So this is basically. This is Killshot versus King Cuerno. Am I right in saying that? I
believe so.
That was their names in Lucha Underground, yeah. Yes. And I just knew that it was going to be fantastic. I really love Legado del Fantasma, the group. I think it's done Wild and Mendoza the world of good being put with Escobar. But, I love Swerve. When he hit the house call in the 450, I thought that was it. I thought he was walking out with the championship. Going into this match, I didn't think that Swerve was actually going to win. I thought, that because they're building Legado del Fantasma, I thought it was going to be too soon for them to take the Cruiserweight title from Escobar. But, these two guys going into this, I think the Cruiserweight Championship is going to take is currently undergoing, a real rebuild. Because, obviously before it was stuck on 205 and no one really cared, and which is horrible to say because I love the concept of the Cruiserweight Championship and the style that comes with it, or the various different styles that can come with it. But, obviously, and then Devlin won the Cruiserweight Championship, and then COVID happened, and, so that threw it all off. And then they had to have another tournament, and then Escobar won it. And I think the right thing to do is to keep it on Escobar for now, just to give it a bit of credit, just to give it that credibility. Let it build, and build the stars around him beating them. Yeah, because this loss did Swerve, no damage whatsoever. He gave a real match of the year style performance, and he will win that championship. There's no two ways about it. He'll have that championship, whether it's before the year's out or early next year. He'll win it, and he'll be a star with it. But for now, keep it on Escobar. Let him beat all comers, and then have him lose it when it really means something.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Scott maybe win the match last night and have a run with the title, but like you say, that it's early days and they need to invest a bit more in Escobar, give him a decent run with the championship. But where do we go now with Swerve Scott then? Do we keep him in a feud with Santos Escobar, and do we kind of maybe let them have a rematch at Halloween Havoc, or pair him off with somebody else and give him some fresh matches down the line? But where would you go with Swerve Scott? Because another fantastic talent, and he will get the championship somewhere, someday, somehow, but not on this occasion. Would you keep the two together and keep them feuding for a bit longer, or maybe pair him off with somebody fresh?
I would maybe go with something fresh. Although with that said, Halloween Havoc isn't all that far away. It's difficult really because I don't think it's the right time to put the belt on Swerve whilst they're really trying to establish Legado del Fantasma as a faction. And if you have the leader lose the championship that he's got, it almost takes the sting out of it. It'd be like Imperium having Walter lose the championship. It would take that little bit of sting. You need that. You need the leader to have that dominance. So I think you keep Swerve on TV and you have him feud with somebody else. He has great matches. Not every match has to have a story behind it, or and stuff like that. You can still have great matches on TV without them really meaning something. Whilst Escobar can be put in another feud. I mean, maybe now it's time to bring Drake Maverick back into the picture, and resurrect that for a bit. But there are so many talented people under 205. I think Balor's under 205, but there's so many talented people under 205 in NXT that you could pair him off with anybody really. And then you have Swerve keep winning, and then you have the two meet eventually after. You just have them meet again once Swerve's picked up a load more victories, and once story. Escobar, because having seen that match last night, I want to see it again. But I don't want to see it again so soon. I don't want it to burn out. I want them now to build to what could be the next real big cruiserweight feud. Like the next, not even that. The next big, meaningful feud in NXT. NXT does a great job of padding out the card with brilliant stories when it comes to the championships.
Yeah, but the fact we're talking about it and the fact that we're so intrigued by it means that we'll kind of find out more. We'll have to find out more when we watch on Wednesday to see where this feud go and what direction they take with these two very, very talented individuals. But you're kind of looking at the future of NXT when you see those two in the ring for sure. But speaking of the future of NXT and possibly the future of WWE, certainly as far as the women's division is concerned, our next match, Io Shirai, NXT Women's Champion, going into it against Candice LeRae. So 14 months ago, Sonny, they said this on the program last night. Roles were reversed. You had the babyface Candice LeRae. You had the newly kind of turned heel Io Shirai attack Candice LeRae after that fantastic steel cage match, which led to their brilliant encounter, NXT TakeOver Toronto, which I think was last June. So you're talking well over a year ago. So these two have had a bit of a story already, but now roles were reversed, where you've got Candice as the poison pixie, the devilish heel, going up against the newly kind of babyface turned Io Shirai. This time the gold is on the line, the championship is on the line. Was this a match that you were looking forward to going into it, and kind of did you have any expectations about this one before you watched it last night?
I think I was definitely excited for it. I love watching Io Shirai perform. I think she's one of the best in the world, not even just in WWE, but the entire world. Yeah. Candice, I love her character development, and I love the way that she's been able to, that they've allowed her to be Candice LeRae, be that star that wrestled in PWG and, was just such a, be the reason that got her to the dance. I hate to use that term, but, WWE signed her based on her performances in the independents. And then obviously she transitioned into, a super baby face. She was, skipping down to the ring, smile on her face, and it really softened Candice LeRae, So I think the double heel turn with her and Johnny going heel, it really allowed Candice to become something else. It allowed her to unleash her full potential as, a top heel. And she really is that. She's one of the top heels in NXT. Not just the women's division, but in NXT. And for her to go against a super hot Io Shirai, it's a really intriguing battle. And it's one that, I'm glad happened. I don't think we'll get it again. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think, the end of the match showed that. But it was a very intriguing contest. And my personal opinion now is, like I mentioned earlier on with Johnny Gargano going to the main roster, I think Candice goes with him.
Yeah, absolutely. But this was a battle. It was back and forth, and a really, really fun match. I enjoyed this. To be honest with you, there's quite a few matches that kind of really, really stand out, but this was one of those that really stood out to me from last night. But the match came to an end, Sonny, when Io Shirai finally managed she hit a tremendous Spanish fly and then a trademark moonsault for the win to retain her championship. And this was a tremendous battle, and both women gave as good as they got in this really, really tough, hard-fought victory for Io Shirai. Give us your thoughts on the match, because I think it went about 14 and 15 minutes, and it gave them time. They both went out there and delivered a fantastic wrestling match. And Io Shirai retained her championship. A lot of people thought that with the character development we've recently seen from Candice LeRae and the way they recently turned her heel, and how the Johnny and Candice kind of experiment on NXT is really, really working and getting a lot of people talking about their heel personas. But I thought because of that they might have transitioned the championship over to Candice last night. They didn't do that. Like you say, we'll have to see whether they continue this feud. But we've seen these two fight. Both as babyface and heels, but last night was a tremendous match. I'd love to know your thoughts on what went down here.
Yeah, phenomenal match. I mean, great back and forth between the two, and the two of them really got to show their strengths. Candice especially. I think Candice, like I mentioned previously, Candice has really been given the opportunity to show her true ability over the last couple of months, and matches like this definitely help. Io, phenomenal anyway, and I loved the back and forth between the two. And you're right, there was a point where you really thought that Candice was going to take it.
Yeah. I think it was a fun match, and it was a great story throughout as well. They told a fantastic story, I don't think the loss did Candice any harm here, because she's built such a fantastic character. She's one of those that you can put in with anybody, and whether she wins or whether she loses, I think she comes out looking great, because we all know that she's class. She's got a great character, yes, I would like to see the NXT Women's Championship around Candice LeRae's waist sooner rather than later, but she's such a hot commodity at the moment, Sonny, that there's every chance that things could be shaken up fairly soon, and that we could see her on either the kind of Raw brand or the SmackDown brand. I hope not. But she is one of those characters that would do well on a slightly bigger stage.
I think if they draft Johnny and Candice together, I think they could take what they've built in NXT and transition it over onto the main roster. That's honestly what I think will happen. I don't really see what else either can. I know that Candice could win the NXT Women's Championship, but I just don't think she will, especially with what transpired after the match. Yeah. I think it almost shoves, that cements Candice out of the picture.
Yeah, and both Johnny and Candice, they've built up such fantastic heel characters that really kind of jump off the screen. On top of their extraordinary wrestling ability, I think that they are kind of bound for maybe slightly different, slightly new horizons, shall I say. I won't necessarily say better horizons, but new horizons. But after the match, we saw former NXT UK Women's Champion Toni Storm. She appeared on a video wall behind EO with Toni proclaiming that as of right now, Toni Storm is back on NXT, and she'll be showing the NXT universe that it is Toni time. And then, as if that wasn't enough of a surprise, we finally get to see who's behind the mysterious green video packages that we've been seeing over recent weeks. And with Io Shirai still standing in the ring, we saw the welcome return of former NXT Women's Champion Ember Moon. So lots to talk about here, Sonny. From this segment, you've got the NXT women's division as if it couldn't be any better and any more stacked. Yeah. You've got the return of Toni Storm and the return of Ember Moon, all in one kind of package here to send out a clear message to Io Shirai and the rest of the women's division on the black and gold brand that they are coming.
Yeah, I mean, I was, to be honest, the Toni Storm thing it shocked me a bit because, we hadn't seen or heard of her in ages. And she's associated usually with NXT UK. Yeah. But of course, she did win the Mae Young Classic. So when you sort of put two and two together, her coming to America to be part of NXT and probably eventually transition to Raw or SmackDown, it makes perfect sense. She's a top superstar, and she's somebody I really admire. I love her character. She's different. She's got a great look, and she's. Not only has she got that great look, she's just a phenomenal worker as well, and I'm really excited to see her get that opportunity on the, NXT UK is brilliant. I love NXT UK, but to see her now get that opportunity in main NXT, in front of that worldwide audience, it's going to be great for her, and I can't wait to see what they do with Toni. As for Ember Moon, I think the transition back to NXT makes perfect sense. Something just didn't click with her on the main roster. Obviously we talk about it all the time with WWE's interesting booking of former NXT talent. In some cases it works very well. Look at Asuka, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair. Yeah. But Ember Moon just didn't resonate with the crowd. And I'm not sure why. You can't rely on the Eclipse to get you over, but also at the same time, it really depends how you're booked. And Ember was probably booked fairly poorly. Yeah. But I'm glad to see her get that chance on NXT once again to show us what she really is made of.
Yeah, and I for one, and I'm sure I kind of echo your thoughts here, Sonny, but I'm just glad to see Ember Moon back. She's going to be competitive soon because there were many fears that she wouldn't come back to the ring after her very severe Achilles injury. So definitely. Just glad to see her back in the ring anyway, shape or form, and coming back home to NXT and to pad out that amazing women's roster even more. So looking forward to that, and no doubt we'll see and hear more from Ember on this Wednesday's NXT. But let's talk about that main event, buddy. Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship. So I don't think we could have foreseen going back maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago that we would have had this main event.
No, not at all.
Circumstances were such that we got, like I said earlier, I honestly expected Kushida to be in this main event following that gauntlet match, but it was Kyle O'Reilly, and a worthy winner of that gauntlet match to make him #1 contender. But like you said it perfectly earlier on, that Kyle O'Reilly is no stranger to being a singles champion. He's a former Ring of Honor world champion. He defended the Ring of Honor world championship at Wrestle Kingdom against Adam Cole probably about 5 years ago now, and that was a hell of a match. But Kyle O'Reilly has been a tremendous singles worker. But in NXT, we really only know him pairing up with either Bobby Fish or Roderick Strong as part of the Undisputed. He is undoubtedly the best and most successful tag team champion in NXT history.
Yeah.
But
sure.
in my opinion, if you've ever seen any of their backstage stuff, Kyle O'Reilly is always the one that kind of stands out to me with his character work and his facials and his kind of little one-liners. On top of being a fantastic wrestler, I think he's an awesome character. And finally, they've kind of hit the button on this guy. And as Shawn Michaels said in one of the promo packages leading up to this match, he's probably the best kept secret in NXT. But just to kind of echo, give us your thoughts again on how excited you were for this match, knowing Finn Balor, knowing Kyle O'Reilly, but they've not faced each other in the ring before. And this was such a unique and fresh and exciting matchup, wasn't it?
Oh, 100% it was. And that's the beauty of this match. I think because it did come out of nowhere. And, as a wrestling fan, you're like, oh, whoa, they're actually going to give us Kyle O'Reilly in singles against Finn Balor. It's difficult to contain that excitement because they could have gone real boring with it and just had somebody predictable win that battle royal, and Finn Balor just has a very routine victory at TakeOver. But instead, they threw us a curveball, gave us Kyle O'Reilly, and gave us a real reason to be excited. I mean, the internet wrestling fans, this is a match for them. Yeah. This is squarely aimed at them and them only. To somebody who watches Raw and SmackDown only, you'd be like, I don't even know who Kyle O'Reilly is. Finn Balor's great, but to us, this is like the holy grail of main events for a pay-per-view, and it came out of nowhere with very little build, and you're like, oh my god, I can't contain myself because this is just going to be so awesome, and it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about some of the highlights of the match. I mean, first of all, both Finn and Kyle, they received their big match main event entrance from the backstage area to the ring. That was pretty cool. Always good when you see that. This was always going to be a great match, and that's exactly what we got, Sonny. It was 28 minutes of hard-hitting, bone-crunching action. This match was slow and methodical to start off with, but the pace soon picked up when O'Reilly started throwing in those vicious kicks and those vicious knees, with Balor soon returning the favour and knocking the challenger to the canvas with some of his stiff strikes. O'Reilly really seemed to be troubled by a kick to the stomach or to the kidney, I think they said, from Balor. And then O'Reilly kind of had a bloody mouth. So it's already very, very physical. We were only 5 or 10 minutes in. It was a 1916 from Balor with O'Reilly kicking out on 2. There was an Achilles lock and a heel hook from O'Reilly. There was a high running knee from O'Reilly, which we would later find out injured Finn Balor's jaw quite severely. But it would be Finn Balor who would deliver the coup de grace to the already injured midsection of Kyle O'Reilly for the win to retain his championship. So, Sonny, all I've got written down here on my notes is the word wow. It was outstanding. There was no gimmicks. There was no run-ins. It was just tough, rough, in-your-face wrestling action. I'd love to know your thoughts on this match, because I think I mentioned it off air, Sonny, but this was more like a real fight, an MMA fight, as opposed to a wrestling match. And I think both guys were physically hurt by the end of this. But we talk about kind of the reports that have come out after this match very soon. But give us your kind of thoughts on what went down here.
They call boxing the sweet science, right? But this was the sweet science in pro wrestling, right? You had two guys who just gel so well together. Kyle O'Reilly is such an incredible all-rounder, as is Finn Balor, and I love the story that they told and the way they told it. Like I said, there was no sort of gimmicky story or anything like that going into it. It was just two fighters fighting for the biggest prize. And I love the way that, like you mentioned, Kyle O'Reilly was focusing on the leg of Finn Balor, and he was homing in on that, looking to exploit that weakness. And Finn Balor was working on the ribs, obviously setting up for the coup de grace. And they told that long story, and they were both fighting. It was like a tug of war, like O'Reilly going for the leg, Balor going for the ribs, and it was told over almost half an hour, and it was just perfect. I mean, O'Reilly took a stiff one to the face, like real early, and really it was when Finn hit the basement drop kick, but you saw on the slow motion replay that it rocked O'Reilly, and I was like woof, like just watching it, and it was just, it's hard to use the word perfection a lot of the time when it comes to professional wrestling, but if you were to introduce somebody to professional wrestling, I would show them that. Oh, why do you watch wrestling? Why do you watch it? It's scripted and all the usual sort of nonsense that comes with, people who don't watch wrestling coming in to watch wrestling. But if you show them that and show them the technical ability of, Kyle O'Reilly is a BJJ master, and he puts that to good use. And the way it was, the way that the story was told using technical aspects of actual wrestling, it was just such a beautiful thing to watch unfold. And they're both seriously beaten up afterwards.
Pretty banged up, yeah.
But they gave us a match that I think we'll be talking about for a long, long time. And I think that was a star-making night as a singles wrestler for Kyle O'Reilly.
Most definitely. And I said during my notes here that it was a 28-minute match. A 28-minute match that only seemed like 15. It was just a pleasure to sit through and to watch, because it didn't drag in places. There was no low points. It was action and drama and a great story, which really dragged you in. And I think that what kind of dragged me in, and probably a lot of other viewers, maybe yourself, but because it was so physical and because the guys did really seem to be going through some heavy hitting knocks there, Sonny, that it kind of really, my eyes were wide open watching this, because I was just, I was almost amazed that this was the type of action we were getting, dare I say, in a WWE ring.
You're right.
That we would see, more akin to your kind of more, Bellator or UFC, for example. But this was a great match. It was a great match. But let's quickly touch on what happened after the match. We saw an angle played out with Ridge Holland, and he was carrying the body of Adam Cole, the leader of the Undisputed Era, of course, over his shoulder, over to the ringside area. He dumped him over the barrier at ringside as Strong, Fish and O'Reilly came to Cole's aid as the show went off the air. So they're obviously building something there for Ridge Holland. I don't think his attack was kind of aimed at Finn Balor in the championship, but maybe aimed at Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era. So there could be a little bit of a feud there with Ridge Holland. Looking quite heelish, I might say, going up against the Undisputed Era. But talking about the injuries, let's talk about the injuries. So there's reports coming out that Balor suffered a possible broken jaw in that running high knee towards the end of the match there, Sonny.
Yeah.
And there's reports that he got taken to a local medical facility, a local hospital in layman's terms, for x-rays. But it's unconfirmed how bad the injury is to Balor's jaw. He did seem in a lot of trouble, a lot of pain towards the end of the match, kind of almost holding his kind of jaw, and he was bleeding quite heavily from the mouth after that strike. But everybody's kind of fearing the worst, and we saw what happened to Karrion Kross after he won the championship over Keith Lee at NXT TakeOver 30 a month or so ago, where he had to relinquish the championship because of injury that same Wednesday. It's a little bit worrying that we might see the same again, where Balor has to relinquish the championship this coming Wednesday. And if that were to happen, that would be very reminiscent of that SummerSlam match against Seth Rollins in 2016. Yeah.
I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case. And I mean, they really went at it. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I know that Kyle O'Reilly was sort of hurt as well, but I think after 28 minutes of the shots that they were throwing at each other and the physicality that ensued in that match, I don't think there was any way that either of them were not coming out hurt. I really hope that isn't the case and Finn Balor can just keep hold of the NXT Championship just for a little while. He doesn't even have to compete. Just, I don't want to see this. It's not, no one can help it. But I don't want to see the championship get relinquished again for us to go through the same thing again. And it's just, it feels like it happens way too often, and I don't want to see it again. If it's a case of Finn's going to be out of action for just a few weeks, while his jaw is wired or whatever, that's fine. Then you just have him do something else. He doesn't have to wrestle. Just have him do other stuff. Wrestling is entertainment. Find another way to build your next feud.
Yeah. Now, if I remember rightly, I know that when Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe had their feud in NXT, and in one of their matches, Joe suffered a broken jaw, and so very reminiscent of what happened last night between these two. And I'm pretty sure that they set a precedent by keeping the belt on Joe. Now, more recently, obviously, that they've stripped Karrion Kross of his championship, so they might kind of want to, kind of follow the pattern of recent events with him. But like I say, Wednesday's going to be must-see TV to find out what happens with Finn Balor, happens with his jaw and his health in general, and a bit of an update on Kyle O'Reilly, but more importantly, what happens with the NXT Championship. But interesting times and lots of talking points coming out of NXT for sure. But what would you say was your favourite match coming out of last night's show then, Sonny?
No two ways about it. It was the main event. It was just so good. It was one of the matches it was one of the best matches of the year. There's no two ways about that. 100% one of the best matches of the year. I'm intrigued by what happened after, because I feel like it was just left and there's no context to it. So we're just guessing, I guess, obviously to make us watch NXT on Wednesday. Rich Holland's choice of waistcoat leaves a lot to be desired. So it'll be interesting to see if he's dropped that come Wednesday. Yeah. But it was a great show all round. I thought, from top to bottom, the card was brilliant. The presentation of the show itself was phenomenal in the Capitol Wrestling Center. I thought it was great, and I'm glad that's continuing for NXT TV as well. As we gradually welcome fans back in, how long that lasts, who knows? But everything is uncertain at the minute. But it was a brilliant show from start to finish. Probably the strongest NXT card that we've had this year, in terms of match quality. But it was brilliant.
Yeah, and like I say, definitely did its work to put over a few new stars as well. Certainly, to people that weren't that familiar with Kushida, I think he did a great job in putting him over. Certainly with Damien Priest, I think that was a bit of a star-making performance from him. Certainly the best match I would say he's had since he joined NXT last year. Yeah. The women's match was really, really good. Loved the story that they played out there, and of course that fantastic main event, which I'm gonna, as soon as I hang up with you, Sonny, I'm going to go back and watch again because it was that tremendous. But if you haven't already seen it, I encourage you all to go out and catch that main event at the very, very least.
Absolutely.
But Sonny, pretty much that very nearly brings us to the end of this episode of Wrestling with John and Snarl. A fantastic review of NXT TakeOver 31. But before we say goodbye to you, where can my listeners and viewers reach out to you, say hi to you, if they want to get in touch with you via social media or any of your pages? Where can we say hi?
So I do have a Facebook page. It's Sonny G Wrestling Interviewer / Commentator. I'm pretty certain I'm the only one. I'm on Twitter as well, which is my full name, which is at Sonny Garner, which is SONNYGARNER. And I'm also can be found on Instagram at Sonny Club. So that'd be. I'd love to hear from you guys. That'd be awesome. I love interacting with people. It's great.
Excellent. And Sonny, one thing we'll have to make sure of is this is the first time we've had you on the podcast. It definitely can't be the last. We'll have to do this again because I know we've spoken a little bit off air about doing a watch along or two. So we'll have to make sure that happens. Yeah. But we'll definitely have to get you back on for another review, possibly another NXT takeover somewhere down the line. But Sonny, it's been fantastic having you on the podcast, my friend.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for even inviting me on. I really do appreciate it.